Right now, all over Italy, you can find real houses selling for less than the price of a used car. Not falling apart, not fake listings, actual houses, in actual towns, priced way below what you'd expect. To show you exactly why, and what it actually takes to own one, we're going to follow one real listing from start to finish. A house on the market right now for $15,000. We'll go through what it actually costs once the paperwork's done. Once the renovation's done. Once it's a place you could really live in. Because the real number by the end isn't $15,000. Stick around, I'll show you exactly what it becomes. What you actually pay above the house price. Let's get straight to what you actually want to know. If the house is $15,000, what do you really end up paying? Because that number on the listing is just the starting point. The moment you decide to buy, 3 more costs show up before you even get the keys. First, the notary. In Italy, every property sale legally has to go through one. There's no skipping this step, and it's not optional or negotiable. Second, registration tax, paid straight to the state just for the sale to go through. Third, if you're buying from another country, you'll almost certainly want a local lawyer to make sure the property has no debts, no disputed ownership, and no legal issues attached to it, which, on houses this old, happens more often than people expect. Put those 3 together, and buyers typically pay another $3,000 to $6,000 on top of the purchase price, before they've touched a single wall. And that's before renovation even enters the conversation. Because a house priced this low almost never got any real work done to it in the last few decades either. So there's still one more number coming, and it's the biggest one of all. Quick context on why it's priced this low in the first place. Italy has one of the lowest birth rates in Europe, and for decades young people have left small hill towns for jobs in the bigger cities and never come back. Combine that with towns that are genuinely far from any airport or city center, and property values here just never recovered. Fewer people, harder to reach, that's the whole reason $15,000 is even possible. But possible. And what you'll actually spend are 2 very different numbers. Let's get into the one that matters. Here's the part the flashy headlines never show you. The $15,000 is just the entry fee. Every property sale in Italy goes through a notary by law, and between notary fees, registration tax, and legal costs, buyers typically pay another $3,000 to $6,000 on top of the purchase price before they've even gotten the keys. And that's before touching the house itself. Remember the one we're following. A small stone house in a hill town in Calabria, 1 floor, about 50 square meters, 2 bedrooms, lived in by an elderly owner until a few years back. This is a normal listing, not a worst-case scenario. Walk through it, and the problems are the kind almost every house at this price shares. A roof that's seen better days, wiring that hasn't been touched since the last renovation decades ago, an outdated bathroom, cracked plaster, no real heating, tired old windows. Fix all of it properly. Roof, electrical, plumbing, walls, heating, windows, and finishing the place with floors and a kitchen. And you're looking at roughly €35,000 in renovation. Add the purchase price, the notary and legal fees, and the renovation together, and the realistic total comes to roughly €55,000. Not 15,000, 55. Now picture it finished. Thick stone walls keeping the house cool through summer, morning light through a real, restored window, a terrace looking out over rooftops that haven't changed in 100 years. That's genuinely what's on the other side of that number. It's just not free, and it's not fast. But here's some relief in the math. Italy's renovation tax deduction, 36%, up to 50% on a primary residence, can claw back a serious chunk of that bill over the following years. A renovated home in a town with any tourism can start earning rental income too, slowly paying itself back. Not a jackpot, a long game, but a real one. Quick question, genuinely curious. Knowing the full number lands closer to $55,000, would you still take on a house like this? Drop a yes or no in the comments. I want to see how many of you actually would. Now here's the part that catches people who did everything right. The costs that never show up in a listing at all. An addition a previous owner never legally registered. A structural problem that only shows up once a wall gets opened. A contractor who's booked out for weeks and just goes quiet on you. None of these happen to everyone, but they happen often enough, and skipping a proper inspection, or skipping a local lawyer, is exactly how a $55,000 project quietly turns into $70,000. So the number's budgeted. The inspection's clean. You'd think that's the whole story. It's not. There's one more thing about these towns, something that has nothing to do with money. And it shapes daily life more than the renovation ever will. Most buyers don't even think to ask about it until they're already living there. what living there is actually like. We already know part of why these houses are cheap: distance. Now here's what that distance actually feels like once you're the one living with it. Many of these towns sit 45 minutes to over an hour from the nearest airport or major city, with limited public transport. If you don't drive, or don't want to depend on a car in a country full of winding rural roads, daily life can get isolating fast. Internet and cell service in some of these towns is still catching up. Medical care, English-speaking services, even a regular grocery store might mean a real drive, not a walk down the block. This isn't true everywhere. Some towns, especially ones with more established foreign communities, have solved this well. But ask people who've actually done this, and the regret almost never comes from the renovation or the paperwork. It comes from realizing, 6 months in, just how far small and quiet actually is from everything else. So the real question was never, how cheap is the house? It was always, cheap house or right house. And that's the difference that decides whether this becomes the best decision someone made, or the one they quietly walk away from 2 years later. So here's what this actually adds up to. The $15,000 price is real. The house behind it is real. But the number that matters isn't $15,000, it's $55,000, and the town around it matters just as much as the house itself. None of that makes the dream less real. Here's what I actually think, after breaking these down. It's not a scam. It's not a trick. It's just a filter. It rewards people who do their homework and punishes people looking for a shortcut. The house was never the risky part. The risky part is buyers skipping the boring stuff, checking the town, checking the paperwork, checking why that specific house is priced the way it is. Do that right, and this is one of the best deals in Europe. If this saved you from finding out the hard way, that's exactly what this channel is for. Subscribe. I break down stuff like this every week, the details that never make it into the listing.